also want to bring into account, and we've talked about this already, but from Prism magazine or prismreports.org, this is a Palestinian doctor from Michigan. And she wrote an article that is absolutely heartbreaking. The headline is, Israel's war on Gaza is a war on women, children, and healthcare. And her statistic is that a baby is born in Gaza still every 10 minutes. And we've already heard about them blocking baby formula, anesthesia. I mean, wow. So she says, I'm a Michigan-based practicing. Wow. Okay. It's a little late, and Reef's the one hitting it, but I'm the one who can't talk. Mm-hmm. I'm a Michigan-based practicing neonatologist and a mother who has dedicated the better part of 21 years to taking care of children. As a neonatologist, I work around the clock to make sure the sickest babies receive the best care and can eventually go home with their parents. To know that in 2024, babies in Gaza are being intentionally subjected to hypothermia, malnutrition, and dehydration by Israel's blockade and bombardment, and that hospitals are lacking clean water, electricity, and basic resources is a nightmare I could never imagine.
Mm-hmm.
In 2015, this woman had the privilege to work in a Palestinian neonatal intensive care unit in the West Bank that's called a NICU.
Yep.
Honestly, when we were having kids, I'm going to stop this for a second and say that when we were having kids, one of my wife's great fears was that one of our kids would end up in the NICU. None of them ever did, although that would mean they would get the absolute best care, but that something they need a little bit of extra attention and they could not be with the parents, and it separates them from their parents, and it's really rough on the parents while they're in the NICU. Okay, so I went with the goal of providing knowledge and training to medical staff in the NICU there, but it was I who gained knowledge from the community of welcoming people I met. Physicians work hard to provide the best care, even with lack of resources, like more updated ventilators or the ability to provide the IV fluids many preterm babies need while their immature digestive systems are vulnerable to injury. Mothers traveled far and crossed multiple checkpoints manned by Israeli soldiers. Of course, we've covered how they detain people and make their travel unnecessarily long just to inconvenience them and make their lives more difficult. Checkpoints manned by Israeli soldiers to visit their babies and bring breast milk. Some couldn't travel, so their babies were fed formula or more simple IV fluids. But today in Gaza, basic necessities like formula and IV fluids are nowhere to be found.
Mm-hmm.
She's reflected back on her time in the West Bank. After work, she would walk the city streets, shopping in the market for guavas. She ate delicious cuisine in various restaurants where she was served with the utmost hospitality. And now Israel has ramped up its attacks on Palestinians in the West Bank. We covered that last week, killing 435. Including 116 children, and injuring over 4,500 since October 7th. In Gaza, Israel has killed more than 31,900 people. That's a nice way to say it. There are no more markets. There are no restaurants. There are no functioning hospitals. No functioning hospitals.
People should try to quantify that number in their head. Think about how 100 people look like to you if they were at your front door. Now multiply that by 30. You know what I mean? And you're not even coming close to what that actually is.
Meanwhile, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And the denial still is even more gross. Meanwhile, the U.S. recently vetoed yet another UN Security Council draft resolution on Israel's war on Gaza. It's more like an assault on Gaza, blocking a demand for a ceasefire, for an immediate ceasefire. They've been doing that multiple times. The U.S. was the only country this time to vote against the draft. Their support of Israel, or our support, unfortunately, of Israel, gives the Israeli government the power to create death beyond bombs with famine and create a complete collapse of all health and human infrastructures. The third veto by the U.S. in February, I can't believe I just had to say those words, sends a clear message that our country endorses the collective punishment of innocent lives. It's mostly women and children left in Gaza who are paying the ultimate price. Healthcare providers in the U.S. have an ethical imperative to speak out, and many are. Doctors Without Borders is calling for an immediate and sustained ceasefire. Not permanent, sustained.
Yeah.
Doctors not calling for a permanent ceasefire. What's wrong with that picture?
It's just they're band-aids even then. Like,
right.
Until you deal with the fact that they're still like occupied, what are you going to do?
More than 150 faculty members, right? Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that, like, there's a reason why they've been doing this to the children and the women. Like, they're worried about some freedom fighter in the next 20 years completely undermining everything they have now. Like, they're literally trying to get the next charismatic leader from being there.
Oh,
after they've experienced this,
even though they're creating
on their doorstep,
they're potentially creating it while they're doing that, because unless they're going to literally wipe the entire population out, and you never really will, because some of them will get away, like Motaz.
Yeah.
While now they may kill their whole family, which they have, and that's disgraceful.
Yep.
It's how these guys go on. I just and how the love they still have in their heart for people in spite of the loss is just remarkable. More than 150 faculty members from public health and medical schools across the U.S. have signed an open letter to President Douchebag demanding a ceasefire in Gaza and an end to attacks on hospitals. Again, I had to say the line that this guy is endorsing attacks on hospitals, including Al-Shifa, which was really, really bad this week. And we're not even going to get into any of that, but look up what happened at Al-Shifa Hospital this week.
Yep.
Late last year, the nation's healthcare union called for a ceasefire. Right, as if Biden could read any fucking letters. That's right, bad cookies. Amen, dude. A permanent ceasefire is necessary for the future of Gaza. According to the humanitarian aid organization UNICEF, a baby is born in the Strip every 10 minutes, and as of January, an estimated 20,000 babies have been born to the region. For these newborns to survive, maintaining a normal body temperature is critical, something that right now is almost impossible for babies born in Gaza today. Diapers. I saw a baby. Didn't you remember? I remember seeing the video of the baby in a plastic bag formed into a diaper, and it broke my fucking heart.
Yep. Also just babies in bags is there too.
Well, yes, but even the ones that are still alive are...
Yep.
They're having to make
I was reading somewhere
diapers.
That part of this has been before October 7th, the population of Palestine was almost like they were making Israelis a minority in the region. Like, and that might be partially why a lot of this is happening. Could be wrong. Could be talking to my ass, but I did hear something along those lines.
When you realize that, when the final numbers in the end come out, and it comes out that they eliminated 10 or 15 or 20% of the entire population of Gaza.
Yeah.
I mean, again, they're not really there yet. But once that really is, I mean, again, you're still dealing with 90% of the population, but where are they going to go? Likely into that holding pen in Egypt that they've been building that wall, and we covered that too, that they're building a wall to basically stop the refugees that they're anticipating will be pushed out of Rafah at some point. Yeah. I mean, they told them to go north, but you can't go north because you can't get supplies north.
Well, then Israel's going to blame Egypt. They're going to push it all the way back to that particular river there. You know, like, it's just a constant battle of them trying to take power. So, you know, and land.
I mean,
that's why they're in Lebanon, why they're in Syria. So,
again, I'm just even talking, you know, healthy babies need diapers, but preterm babies are at risk of becoming cold because of their limited fat stores that help contribute to maintaining a normal temperature. This is why incubators are so important. But incubators, of course, require electricity, which is yet another thing that Gaza does not have right now. Unless they've got a generator that hasn't been destroyed by Israel and they're targeting heat signatures in order to be able to destroy all of them. Allegedly.
Well, and that's one of the people at the Bushnell Memoriam was saying, like, look, the Air Force, all these organizations have more than enough capability to see inside every building and know exactly who's there.
Yep.
And
they know exactly,
they're not doing
down
that.
To the person. But now that they've destroyed all the buildings, they don't really have the ability to do that anymore, other than tracking cell phones.
Well, I mean,
if they can even charge their cell phone,
laser, you know, like, you can see literally heat map to the region. Like, you send one of those fucking, I forget what plane that is. It's the one with the big dishes and stuff for comms, things like that. All they got to do is, like, dude, one sweep of the region and they know where everything is. So, like, they're just choosing not to, and carte blanche carpet bombing the whole thing because no one's telling them not to.
Yeah.
So
hypothermia,
you know,
hypothermia is a leading factor in neonatal mortality because it puts newborns at serious risk for things like infection and breathing problems. This is especially concerning given that Gaza has been in the midst of its cold season. And that there's rubble and fucking bomb dust flying everywhere in the fucking air.
Yeah. Oh, and white phosphorus.
Yeah, that too. In November, when premature babies that's allegedly, were evacuated from Al-Shifa Hospital, man, that's loud, Israeli soldiers informed medical staff in the neonatal intensive care unit that the newborns had to be removed from their incubators and transferred to another area of the hospital. This is literally the story that they told about Iraq. They took the babies out of the incubators. Then in Iraq, they allegedly put them on the floor, but that was a lie. The babies were then carried, wrapped in towels and diapers, and moved to the surgical department. That transfer alone put the babies at risk of becoming cold and dying. I believe we heard something about 38 babies in the end. So she said in Gaza, medical staff leave their families every day to travel to the hospital, never knowing if they will live to see another day or if their families will. I spoke with Dr. Mohammed Salama, a neonatologist at Emirati Hospital in the southern part of Gaza, close to the Rafah border. He told me that he often works an entire day without food and often only has a few sips of water to drink. The hospital has been forced to function with major shortages of its medical supplies since the start of Israel's war on Gaza. No surprise. Caring for a large number of sick babies under depleted conditions is not only risky for patients, but physically and emotionally draining for the medical team. And of course, when one of those people goes out, that's someone that takes care of dozens or hundreds of babies that's now no longer available. Dr. Salama shared stories of medical team members burying their loved ones and then coming to the hospital to work. Could you imagine? Israel's war on Gaza has also been a war on healthcare. Of course it has. Hundreds of healthcare workers have been killed by Israel since the bombardment of Gaza began in October. Hospitals are barely functional, and mothers and their newborns are at the brink of death and starvation due to the lack of humanitarian aid. And Israel stands there and denies their entry, and then stands and denies that their people are standing and denying the entry. What? What do you mean? What? We're building a port. What do you mean? What?
I'm kind of red-handed.
The emotional agony in which medical staff are working will cause generational trauma. I continue to hear the words Salama said to me.
Understatement.
Yeah, they play over and over in my head. Please, please, please stop this war. We're doctors. We studied medicine to help people. We want peace. Americans have a collective responsibility to take action and call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. This is the only way Gaza can begin to rebuild its healthcare system and give doctors and patients the dignity and treatment they deserve. Israel has no intent on allowing that to happen, and they have no intent on allowing Gaza or the Palestinian people to rebuild Gaza. They're taking the land, just like Trump said, we're taking the oil. We're going to take the oil. That's what they think they're going to do, at least. I don't know if anybody's going to stop them, but that's their plan. And they're going to build a Ben Gurion Canal, and they're going to level the... I mean, they've already brought the bulldozers in. And I had a report saying that the army, and I think I might even have that, are literally carrying the rubble from the houses that they destroyed to build the buildings along the waterfront for the Kushners.
Yep.
All right. She says that she will never forget the lives of her fellow physicians, nor the infants they tried to save. I hope that one day we can all commit to caring for the innocent children of this world and never allow this to happen again to anyone, not just to the Israelis, not just to to anyone. Dr. Fozia Saleem-Rasheed, thank you. And I'm so sorry. Fozia. Sorry to butcher your name. I apologize, but that was incredible. And again, I really appreciate you writing that piece. We need more of that. And yes, the medical professionals, as Desert Mantis says, are heroic. Yes, Dimitri Latskaris, who works, by the way, with our friends sometimes over at the Canada Files, he was in, somehow he got into Rafah, and he was showing some footage, yes. The rave site outside Gaza, yes, it gives a perspective of the landscape. Or did he go to Egypt and he went right to the gate? Yeah, oh, he was there. No, he was in Palestine. He made a series of excellent vlogs. Definitely go check out Dimitri Latskaris.